That's a bit bright.
One other person. How you do them all. Oh, there. 1, 2.
Not sleep for it.
Who's this? Come on. Come on.
And
Who's this? Who's this? Who's this?
stop.
Who's that? Okay.
No, I'm going to put shares up.
Right, good morning.
Morning.
I'm gonna go straight in. I'm not sure if we've got everybody. Gets a bit awkward because I'm using my phone to do the videoing. That means I can't check my phone to see if I've had any messages. So, but I will get going. What we do, just remind me, who's new? Who hasn't attended a meeting with us so far? Is anybody in this group? Hang on.
Yeah.
And are you new?
Yeah.
Someone said.
And then Wilma.
Wilma. What I'd like you to do, if you can figure out how to do it, is just change your name to your first names and your dog's name, and we'll get everybody to do that. And the reason I'll get you to do that is I'm really bad at remembering names, and if you don't do it, I'll do it for you. But you'll need to just let me know.
I don't know how to do it.
You don't know how to do it, so
Yeah.
Becca, What's your puppy called?
Luna.
Luna. See, and I told you I won't remember. There's a medical name for the problem, which means I can't remember names. And I can't remember the name of that. So, Lisa's managed.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else can't figure out how to do it?
Not a clue.
Okay, so
You just click on your photo and there's the 3 dots. If you click on there and then it says rename.
I've got it up for them just now. So if you let me know your first names and your puppy name.
I'm Sam, Adam, and Wilma.
So cute.
So tiny.
Ollie, sit. Wait.
Nick, if you can just change your name to your first name and your puppy's name for me.
Yeah, it's Kelly. Nick's on his way. I'm trying. I'm terrible on ICT.
Nick and Kelly. Tell, and your pup's name, please.
Rosie.
Rosie. I think that's everybody. Sally and Quinn. All right, so for those of you who haven't been to the first one, I have to tell you that to make the sound quality good, what we have to do is mute everybody. And if you can mute yourself, do that for me just now. If you can't, again, I'll do it for you. Okay, so Sam, done you, Chris, you're done. That's everybody. Well done. Okay, so that means now that if you need to grab my attention, what you need to do is we've got a bit of sign language for you to practice, and we make sure everybody's able to do this. Is everybody able to go? Fabo. Now, the other thing is, because I don't get the same amount of feedback as I would normally do in a class, I need you to reassure me. I need a little bit of, I need you to make me feel better. And the way that you can do that is if you're understanding and you're happy with things, then we want lots of these. So has everybody got some of those with them? Fab. That also lets me know that you're getting decent sound quality and that my camera, the internet sometimes plays up, sometimes everything breaks down. So I like to be able to make sure that you're actually hearing me, that you're understanding me, and that if you need to ask a question, I do like interruptions. I do want to keep you all on board and I want to know that you're actually understanding. So lots of these as we go along. Feedback for me to let me know that we're doing okay. So the other thing that might seem a bit strange for you is that I will be doing this quite a lot, which means I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at the big screen. And the reason that I'll be looking at the big screen quite often when you're talking, so I look very distracted, is because it makes it easier for me to see what you're saying and what your body language is saying, and me again looking for feedback as to how we're doing. So try not to be too distracted by the weird way that I keep going over there and looking over there and looking as if I'm not actually interacting with you. That's just unfortunately part of this whole Zoom sort of format. So you should be able to see at the minute a view where you can see everybody. Is that right? Okay, so what I'm going to try and remember to do is that when I'm teaching, I'm going to try and remember to do that, which means that now I can't see you all very well at all. You've gone into tiny boxes along the top, but hopefully you get a better view of me. Is that right? Happy? All right. Can you all hear me okay at the moment? Yes, bravo. Right. So this week for you all is week 2. Is that right? So some of you missed week 1. Did you manage to watch the video and catch yourselves up? those of you that are new. I'm just going to make the screen bigger because I can't see everybody. Yeah, it's because everybody slipped off the end. Can't see everybody. So you might have to, if you need me, the other thing you can do is you can unmute yourself and say something, and that'll bring my attention to you. So what we do at the beginning of class to just make sure everybody's happy is I'm going to get you each individually, which can be a bit embarrassing, I know, but we're going to get you each individually to just let us know how you're getting on, if you're having any particular problems. Obviously, if they're quite complex issues, then what I might do is put you on the back burner, come back to it after if we've got a little bit of time, or even possibly have a separate conversation with you. Want to keep the flow of the class for everybody. But if it's a quickie, I'll try and answer it at the time. All right, so you're in the order that I can see you along the top of the screen. And Rebecca, bless you, it looks like you're up first. So I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
Morning. There's Luna. Absolutely full of it this morning. The only issue we're having at the minute is she's terrified of meeting other dogs or people. Absolutely terrified.
Oh, bless her. So that's not an uncommon issue with puppies in general, actually. So they can go through phases where they're more fearful, which can be perfectly normal. But the other thing, obviously, is our lockdown puppies have had less interaction with humans and certainly less close contact with humans, and especially if we're isolating on our own or in a small group at home. So what you need to do, first of all, is don't panic. When you're introducing the idea of anything new, and that includes other people and other dogs, we need to not get too stressed about it ourselves. What you might find is that with puppies that have real big problems with new in general, is that you need to give them distance. You need to let them watch. You need not to get involved too quickly. Quite often puppies will sit and they will look for quite a long time. And if we interrupt that process and we get involved too quickly, what we can do is start to make them, we're stopping them from getting the information, and they need the information. What we can do though is we can start using classical conditioning, which is person equals food, and you take your very best food. So we're going to talk about what makes the best reward in a minute, so we'll go over that. And you feed in spite of behavior. So even if you
refuse food.
Yep. In which case, I would say if you're refusing food, you're too close.
It's literally when we take her for a walk around the block and we're passing somebody, they stop because they see a puppy. And I try to keep going, but I'm literally pulling her by her neck.
No,
they don't keep going. They stop and they chat, and I'm just like, and she's literally at the full length of the lead, just shaking.
Yep. So
we've got dogs that are off leash that are trying to sniff her, and she's freaking out, and I'm like, I don't really know how to navigate.
all right. So those situations you should not take her into. You don't want to be trying to street walk this puppy yet. You don't want to be trying to expose her to dogs or people. You take her into the middle of the park where she can see people at the distance, where she can watch them, where she can get lots of information, and she can have lots of really nice experiences associated.
Right, okay.
And then when she's starting to want more information, she'll start to herself. That's when you start allowing that to happen. What I would do is I would set up those first closer meetings with people who understand not to try to make friends with her. It has to be her that makes the first move. So if you look at it from the puppy's point of view, they're tiny, and people keep coming over and sticking their hands on them without even asking. Imagine if you were on the street and strangers just kept coming over and touching you. You'd start to be a bit worried about going out on the street. Whereas if I just took you to a garden party and we started off at the furthest distance and I just brought you cakes and things, you know, and you were allowed to stay there, and then you saw somebody maybe you thought they were quite fun or interesting, you thought you might like to go over and have a conversation, but I don't force you to go. It's in your own, it's by your own choice. It's in your own, you know, we want the puppy to find their own confidence.
Fab.
Not be forcing the situation at all.
Yeah, well, that's what I was worried about, like giving her an extra fear of walks.
Absolutely. So you carry to wherever's a safe place, put them down where they're able to eat, where they're able to interact, where they're able to have something nice happen, and then you let it be the puppy that makes that next move. The more we force it, the worse it will get. And especially if we're having that experience of person equals tight lead, being dragged, pain, discomfort, all of the above, then that person's just going to get scarier. All right, darling, you mute you, and we've got Lisa.
Hi, morning everyone. Woody, this week I've got Woody with me. Woody, what's this? Woody. So the biggest problem I'm having is them fighting, and it's getting more and more aggressive. Perhaps we could have a chat about that separately, because I know that doesn't really account for anyone else. But and the other thing is they're doing really well at training. If I tell them to go to bed, they'll go to their bed in their crate. They're really good at it, and I'm doing training with treats. But the thing is, they always expect a treat to be in my hand now, and now they're kind of like jumping up and nipping. So I didn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Okay, and as you quite rightly said, you're the only one in the group that's having to deal with two puppies. So somebody's not on mute. That's what I've got. Sorry, Alison, I'm just going to mute you. Don't panic. It doesn't mean we're not talking to you. It just means it makes the noise a bit easier. Okay, so you are the only one that's dealing with two pups. That is kind of a special case. So yes, I think we do need to find time to have a chat. We'll try and do that at the end, but I'll see where we go time-wise, whether or not I've got enough time at the end.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Jumping up, quite common with puppies. There's a really good and easy solution to jumping up, and we can have a quick about that. Although my jumpy uppy puppy has just been borrowed. Dawn's took him. So the one that I usually use to demo, who always gets on nicely on time so that I can show you how to get over it, he's gone off to have a walk with Zebby. So, but we'll have a go with the ones I've got. All right, so I'll mute you for now.
Okay, thank you.
And we've got Nick and Kelly and Rosie, if you unmute yourself.
Hiya. There's Rosie. Sort of pretty similar to Lisa, really. Just I'm out at work every day, and it's Nick that's at home. So we're both doing it because obviously he spends more time with Rosie. But I think sort of our biggest thing is just the nibbling and the biting and the chewing and constantly wanting to chew, really. But other than that, things are great.
Okay, thank you. And we've got Sam, Adam, and it's fallen off the end of my screen what your puppy's called.
Wilma. This is
Wilma? Hello. We're having a bit of breastfeeding at the minute. I'm sorry, we couldn't keep her quiet, so Mum's up here.
Yeah, Wilma's only 6 weeks old. So we're here more for training ourselves than Wilma.
Okay, brilliant.
I have a huge amount of at the minute, but apart from crying, other than that, she's a blank canvas. But a lot of crying at the minute, and a lot of 5 o'clock in the morning wake ups and midnight wake ups and crying to be picked up. And other than that, yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Nice to see them together. Cute for us. Okay, Sally and Quinn. Well done.
Hi. My problem's been the same as Rebecca and Luna, really. Quinn's very, very nervous going out for a walk. She just sits. You can't get her past about 2 houses. But as you said about taking it to a safe space, I think we'll try that.
Okay, bravo. All right. Any other problems? Are you fairly happy so far? Ready to learn?
Yeah, she's doing all right. The things that we did last week and things, she's doing really well. She's fast asleep on the floor, which is why I've not picked her up.
Righto. And who hasn't gone yet? I'm losing track. Just wave at me if you haven't gone yet. There we go. We'll ask you, Chris and Andrea.
Hi everyone. Yeah, Willow's snoozing on Andrew at the moment, so yeah, everything's been fairly good. The big issue really is just I guess the expected issue of biting and nibbling on anything and everything, and it seems like it's almost like I'm in a computer game of constant levels. If I get something out of the way or protected, and she identifies something else to attack. But I guess we were looking for sort of like chews and things, because we've got her just loads of toys, but she'll just play with it for a bit and then think, oh, I've had enough of that. But a lot of the chew things that we find online or in the shops seem to say for puppies from 3 or even most of them from 4 months onwards. So we've not been getting them for her. So we're just wondering if there's any good tips on things that we can give her to just occupy her, basically.
Yeah, wonderful. Love it. What I'm really liking is that doing this guides it almost sometimes reminds me of things that I might forget. Doing this training for so many years, you lose bits. They're in there, but you forget that you've got to tell everybody, because you kind of start to think that everybody kind of knows and that it's standard knowledge, when actually it isn't at all. Okay, who else hasn't gone? Wave at me. So, Stephanie.
Morning. Bit like everybody else, still got a few issues with biting. But Bert also likes to hump his bed a lot. So I just wondered, I know obviously that is natural for them, but should you intervene at any point if it's when he's getting overexcited and he's cried a bit, because I think his lipstick's got a bit stuck at times and he's screamed in a way, and it concerned me a bit. So I don't know whether I should try and calm him down from that at some points. But apart from that, just the ongoing chewing with everybody else. So as Chris was saying, some pointers on what chews are suitable at their age would be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and Alison, you haven't gone yet, have you? Can you hear me all right? You're on mute, darling. Oh, hang on. So, you've got a number. Let's rename you as well while we're, hello. Can you hear me all right? Hello, we've got a number 909954. Lady with the clock behind her in the kitchen.
Me.
You, hello. Can I just...
Hi, it's Tracy.
Sorry, say again?
Tracy with Bella. Are we stuck?
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, Dad. How are
Okay.
you?
All good. She seems to have 2 personalities. Really, really good. And then we go to the far extreme.
where she like attacks, and she doesn't like the no word. She barks at no, and the biting.
Okie dokie. Righty ho. Have you lived with a puppy before, Tracy?
Yeah, I've always had a dog.
Okay. Was it a long time ago or fairly recently that you've had a dog?
Well, we recently lost our dog of 13 years. We had a Springer Spaniel. We lost him in August and got Bella in, what's she now? We've had her just over 2 weeks. So I'm not used to a puppy. It's been 13 years, so you forget, don't you?
All right. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Anyone else hasn't gone yet? Have I done everybody? Thumbs up if you're happy so far. Everybody got good sound? Fabo. Right then. So let me just put myself on speaker view. So my assistants for class today are Twiggy, you can see in the background there, who's obviously finding the whole thing extremely stimulating, and Maybe, who is presently under the desk. Let's see if she can come and make an appearance. There we go. So Maybe, this one, is 13, and Twiggy here is nearly 7. Dodo, my youngest, as I say, he's wandered off to have a bit of a nice day with Donnie instead of sitting, you being my demo dog. So living with puppies. I have got quite a lot of stuff on the Facebook group which will answer quite a lot of these questions. You know, I've done some video chats and there's lots of information and handouts. So I don't want to go too much into all of it, but needless to say, living with puppies is really hard work. It's really upsetting sometimes, you know, that you were expecting to get these cute, fluffy little things, and what you actually get is these monsters with teeth who make a mess of your house and are constantly doing things to upset you. What I want you to be very mindful of is that your puppy is never, ever doing something with you in mind. They are never considering what it makes you feel. They're not able to do that. So everything that your puppy does is driven by their internal self, their internal need. So that if you find yourself starting to take it personally, you really need to rethink and reset yourself, because that taking it personally and that getting angry is not going to help that behavior to improve. It's probably going to make it worse. And it is frustrating and it does make you angry and it is hard to be a puppy owner. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important that you come back into the group, onto the WhatsApp chat, and really vent, you know, because you lot can then be a support system for each other, because it really isn't easy and it really is upsetting. They've recognized a syndrome in puppy owners very similar to that condition that human baby owners, whatever they call them, parents go through, where they, you know, they can go into a state of depression because they were expecting it all to be really lovely and really wonderful, and it's actually really hard work. You've got your sleep is interrupted, you're having to fit a load more work into your life which maybe you weren't expecting, and you have this beast who has their own needs, their own drives, and they want to know how everything works. They want to investigate everything. They don't have hands, so to find out what something looks like, they have to put it in their mouth. I don't know if I was one of those kids, you know, where you were constantly being told not to touch. You've taken into the best shops ever and told not to touch. Well, I had no idea what something was until I had it in my fingers. I didn't know what shape or size it was. I can't even explain that to you if you haven't experienced it. I remember, I'm one of these lucky or unlucky people that remembers things from being 3 and 4 years of age. So I know how it feels to go into a brand new situation and need to touch everything, need to want to put it into your mouth even. So biting and chewing are part of that. You know, they're part of that investigation. The biting is your puppy saying, what if I bite this way? What if I bite this bit? What if I bite with this amount of pressure? What if I bite with my back teeth? What if I bite with my front teeth? And if they were still with their litter, all of that biting would be put onto the litter, and they would be getting constant feedback. The puppy that they bite too hard will give them a few seconds of, I'm not playing with you anymore, I don't like that. You know, so they get instant feedback. And we need to give them similar feedback. In other words, if you're biting gently and you're being careful with your mouth, you can carry on having access to my hands. But if you bite me hard, oh, you can't have these, that's not available. And likewise with feet or with clothes, you can remove yourself. You can say, oh, no, I don't like it. And you can give them a little bit of time alone. The other thing to do is to transfer that bite onto something that's appropriate. So if you're going to be sitting with your puppy and you know that they're a bitey type of puppy, have something next to you that is an appropriate biting item. So, and just pop it into their mouths, you know, instead of your hands. Don't practice playing with your hands and letting them get harder and harder. Take your hands away and pop something else in there. Have it available all of the time. You can teach them to lick on your hands instead of biting. So lathering yourself in something like safe peanut butter without the xylitol, or with the cream cheeses without the onions and chives. So you can do things like that. But what I have to say about biting is it's normal and it will improve as long as you don't make a big deal out of it. Don't be telling them off. Don't be getting overexcited by it, because two things are the likely outcomes of those. The likely outcomes are that the puppy will get more excited, so it will become more of a game, so they'll bite harder, or the pup will become afraid of hands. You know, and we do not want them afraid of hands. We want them thinking hands are the best thing ever. Hands come in with food, they come in with play, they come in with touch if the puppy likes being touched, and some puppies don't like being touched. So that's that bit. Humping's normal. That's your opinion. Again, I might choose to distract. I might choose to, when the puppy starts doing something, you walk off and you sound like you're doing something more interesting elsewhere. So you don't make a big deal out of the behavior, you just walk away, and maybe the treat pouch comes out or the new toy starts rolling across the floor. Puppies are very nosy people, and quite often just leaving is enough for them to go, oh, where are you going? What are you doing? I'll follow you. And that will stop that behavior. Obviously, if certain people would say it's a normal behavior, just let them go for it. Have a specific item, and then you can control that behavior so it's not happening when you don't want it to, by removing that item. You know, so certain people have specific teddies or specific cushions or blankets that they'll only give when it's okay. Right, so back to the subject of the day, because otherwise we won't get to it. I'm only giving myself half an hour left to do. So today we're going to talk about basic training. So starting to introduce the idea into the puppy's head that there are certain things that we say and do that mean specific things. And the first thing I have to say about this is not the most important thing you're going to be doing with your puppy. We start introducing this idea now, but I don't want you to think that it's massively important. The most important thing for your puppy is getting out there, seeing the world, learning to be confident in new situations, having nice experiences, having good experiences with new. Okay, so having it paired with something that they like. But we do need them to have basic training. Why do we need to do that? Well, because there are going to be people in the future who are going to say certain things to your dog and are going to expect that your dog will understand them. And if we haven't given your dog basic knowledge of the fact that those cues mean those things, then it's a bit like me dropping you off into a foreign country or onto an alien planet and them saying things at you and you not understanding what they mean. You've got a level of anxiety which is already setting you up for being anxious in general about life. And if we can get that communication going between us and the dog, and then in the future we start to transfer it, it's every person and every situation, that cue means the same, then that leads to a reduced level of anxiety about life and about new. It makes us predictable. It makes humans more predictable, which means that they feel safer. Okay, so common words that humans are going to say to dogs in the English language are things like sit and down and wait and stay, yeah? And there's other things that you can teach, but what I want you to understand from the dog's point of view is that they do not use English as their primary language. They are not born with an ability to understand the English language. What they are born with, after thousands and thousands of years of living with us, is they want to understand us. So they have a drive to want to understand. Dogs are primarily body language learners, so they're going to find it easier to learn hand movements and hand signals than they are going to listen to verbal cues. And when you're teaching cues, what we have to be aware of is that the dog is taking everything in. So where you teach the cue, how you move your body, how you say the word is all going to be bunched in, okay? So to begin with, we use food in the hand to really, really show them what we mean. But remember then that food in the hand becomes part of the cue. So your dog could easily learn, if the food isn't there, the cue doesn't mean the same thing, okay? Likewise, if we're trying to teach them a verbal cue and we keep moving the hand at the same time as saying the verbal cue, they're not going to hear that verbal cue because they're so fixed on watching the movement and watching the food. Okay, that's going to make a little bit more sense as I go through it. So, everybody happy so far? Is that all just gone poof, straight over your heads? Happy-ish. Let's get a gallery view so I can see. Anybody got any questions at this point? Give me a wave if you're a bit mixed up. Try not to get too sciencey, but you know, when you've gone and put yourself through all sorts of scientific teaching and reading books and malarkey, it sort of leaks out. So if you feel that you need for me to come backwards at all and go over things, just do tell me. All right, so we had a look at luring last week, and luring is having food in your hand. It's having food presented to the dog directly on their nose. And the way we're going to use it is we're not going to hold it in the tips of our fingers like this, where it's sticking out. We're going to hold it slightly back on our fingers, and we're going to pop our thumb over the top of it. And that means you can see the puppy can get their tongue in there, and they can taste it, and they can lick it, and they can see where it is. And we can put the dog onto the treat, and we can let them have a really good go at getting it, but actually it's still there, yeah? And when the puppy's in exactly the right position, or they've done something that you like, you can take your thumb away at exactly the right time. And that helps them to understand, when I'm doing that thing, she lets that food go. So we start with body language because that's easier for the dog to do. Put your lure on, move your puppy, and take their head up slightly and back. And that's going to make their bum fall on the floor. So you move them, you lift their head up slightly. Now my hand is hardly moving. We're going from here to here. Yeah, we're not moving a lot here. So let's move Twiggy so you can see. So my hand is here, I'm literally going to move it backwards and up slightly, and the bed got in the way, but she managed to do it. All right, if your puppy keeps going backwards, and some puppies do, it means that you're either going backwards too fast, so you need to slow down that movement towards them. If your puppy's coming up, it means that your hand is coming too high. Okay, so if the feet keep coming off the floor, your hand is coming too high. That's a 13-year-old doing a sit-up. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? So we'll get you all to have a quick go at that. And the aim with this is using body language and a law, just to get your puppy's bottom onto the floor. We're not worrying about saying anything at this time. We're worrying about when you move your thumb out of the way, when they're in the right position. Paws on the floor. Hello, darling.
Should we wake them up to try or leave it alone?
If your puppy's sleeping, I'd rather you left them alone, because they're not going to learn very well if they're tired anyway, if they're not already motivated to join in with you. But you can, if we put you on gallery view, you can have a laugh at everybody else. Sally. Hello, did you want to talk to me? If you want to mute yourself.
No, I think it was my son that was waving. No, it's fine, thank you. Quinn's asleep. Oh no.
All right, so everybody, first prove to yourself that your puppy can lure. So first put your food on their noses and move them a step and release that food. When you're luring, you don't lose contact with the nose. If you're going too fast and the puppy isn't connected to that food and your hand keeps getting away from them, they're not going to understand what you're trying to show them. So food on the nose, move your dog and release the food. Confidence to follow, that's the first thing that we want. Look at the little cutie, look at little Wilma can do it and she's 6 weeks old. Okay, so when you're really happy that your puppy can lure, then we do that tiny little hand movement towards them and slightly up, so we're raising the head up. If you raise your puppy's head upwards, their bum will naturally want to drop. Okay, so we've gone from standing puppy, raise that head slightly, that's going to make the back. If you do it yourself, if you've not got puppy working with at the moment, stand up straight. If you raise your head, you feel tension across your lower back, your lower spine. And that's going to make you want to readjust your body, straighten your spine. So you'll tend to drop your hips, okay? So we get that natural feeling in the dog that they want to drop their body. Has everybody managed who is working a dog? Are you all happy with that bit? Thumbs up for me, yeah, okay. Now what we do is we're going to introduce the verbal cue. So we're going to introduce the verbal cue when we know, when we're willing to put a decent amount of money on it, that after we've said it, the dog will be able to follow that lure. They will be able to do the behavior. We don't want to be saying it when we're not sure whether or not they're going to be able to do it. Otherwise, your dog might figure out that sit means hover with your knees slightly bent. Yeah, because that's as far as they've been going. Or they might figure out that sit means raise your paws up and try and grab hold of the food. Yeah, so we need to make sure they go into that behavior. Then what we need to do, timing wise, I want the sit word to happen just before the bum lands. So I go sit, and then my lure starts to move a little bit to get them into that position, okay? So first make sure your puppy follows the lure really well and that you're happy that they're going into the sit position. Then introduce your cue. Introduce it as a single word. So you're not doing it in the middle of a sentence, otherwise they won't be able to pick out what that word is. Yeah, so have a go at that if you're ready for that. If you're not ready for that, don't do it. You can just do your law to sit. If you're not sure that your cue's going to work, okay, beautiful. Now the next thing we need to think about always with puppies, because they do have this habit of raising their paws up, is don't remove your thumb until they're in the right position. Okay, so come here, darling. If I say sit and I have a dog who starts sitting up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition my hand slightly and then release when she's in exactly the right position. Okay, so what I want you to really think is a little statement called reward for position. If you want sit to look like a dog with its bum on the floor and its front feet on the floor, don't let go of that food until that is the position that they're actually providing. Does that make sense? Happy. Yeah. All right, so that's introducing your verbal cue for sit and putting it into the right order so that the puppy can learn what you mean when you say the word sit. And then you can take it on further from that in the future, but basically you could later on, you could decide whether you want to keep both a hand signal and a verbal cue, or if you want your hand signal to look different, or if you want to change your cue to something else. But that all gets a bit technical. For now, we're going to make sure we are pairing that word with that position means food. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions at that point? Okay, so next we're going to do down. I'll show you the easiest way to get puppies into a down position. So I'm just going to try and move my camera without dropping it. Oh, so you can get a better view of the floor and hopefully the dog. Yes-ish, a bit more flush. Okay, so the easiest way to teach a puppy, can you go on the bed? Thank you. Stay there, Twiggy. The easiest way to teach a puppy a down is to first go to the sit. Pay for the sit, but have another piece of food available in that hand so you don't lose connection with the puppy between. Now take that hand, I'm rolling my hand so my palm starts to face downwards. Now Twiggy has a problem, she can't do a straight down. She has to do a weird thing where a bum comes up and then a body goes down. Take that food all the way to the floor. Come here, I can't see you. Turn around that way. Go in there. So we put it on the nose. We're going to start to rotate the palm so that it faces downwards. We're going to slowly take that nose all the way down to the floor between their front feet. And when they finally land, then we're going to put the food, and it goes on the floor. So my hand is going from here underneath the dog's nose, and as I go down with the dog, I'm rotating slowly until eventually my hand is this way up on the floor and the dog's trying to put her nose underneath it. And because they're trying to put their nose underneath it, that will tend to rock their body over. Now, if their bottom keeps coming up, it's because we need to glue that bottom. That means do more sits. Yeah, pay for the sit every time and bring your dog. Now, she's not a good demo, as I say, because of the shape. She simply has never been able to go straight from sitting into a down. It's the way she's built, so she has to kind of do that. She has to put the front end down first and then drop the back end. Let's see if Maybe's a better demo. You go in there, May. Twiggy on the bed, please. Stay there. You can go where they can see you. So we do sit, and then we're going to take her nose straight down between her front feet. Okay? What I want you to be very careful of here, if your puppy's bum keeps getting up, the other thing that might be happening is that you might be luring that nose forward. Okay? So if they're already in a sit, this is my dog, and you've got that nose, I want that nose to come straight down so that the back end slides away a little bit, or that they fold themselves up and they tip over. Yeah? If you find that your pup keeps getting from the sit as you're doing this, what you might actually be doing is luring that nose forward, which means that the bum's going to come up, because that's the way they're designed. So we need to keep that nose tucked in. Beautiful, Luna, well done. Let's have a look at Woody again. Folding puppies. Beautiful, and then you let go because we're paying for position, so we let go with the food as close to the floor as we possibly can. So we pay them for being in exactly the right position. Beautiful. Everybody happy with that bit? Anybody got any problems, need to wave at me? We're all happy, I think. All right. So we said, didn't we, that if you've got food there all of the time, it becomes part of the queue. Well, in the future, what we're going to do quite quickly, if your pup's getting really good at it, what we're going to do is we're going to keep those hands still with no food. We're going to say the cue. Pretend I've said it, because she'll do it straight away. If they don't do it, then we're going to bring the lure back in and remind them. Okay, so we're doing a little test. Do you recognise the cue? We're giving them a minute, not a minute, but 2 or 3 seconds to see if they can put 2 and 2 together. Can they hear that cue and think to themselves, when I put my bum on the floor after that cue, there will be food. So we'll be kind of trying to take the food out of the picture quite quickly. But we're going to bring it back in again if we need to. We're not going to leave them sat there going, oh, I know what you mean, because what they'll start doing if we leave them with that kind of gap is they'll start throwing lots of silly other behaviours at us. We don't want them to get it wrong. We want them to get it right. But we also need to test and see if we can get them to understand without the food. Okay? The next thing you would change along again in the future is we're going to not necessarily want to be putting our hand all the way to them to show them what we want. We're going to want to eventually be able to just do a little hand signal without a verbal cue and have our dogs understand that, or to be able to say the word without the hands. Can you sit? Good girls. Yeah, so one or the other or both, depending on what you want with your own personal dog. I like to keep both because sometimes, you know, I'm carrying carrier bags and I don't want to be having to put the bags down to give a hand signal. I want to be able to tell them verbally what I want them to do. And sometimes they're at a distance, or I'm talking to somebody and I don't want to have to give a verbal cue, but I'd rather be able to get them on the hand signal. So lots and lots of training involved in that. This doesn't happen overnight. And one of the biggest problems I see with puppy owners is because the dog's done something 2 or 3 times in a row, you'll start to think that they really understand. But actually, until your puppy is able to do it every single time, in every different environment, in every different situation, you cannot say that they know it. Okay? And this again, it's a human thing. If we allow ourselves to believe that the dog knows something, then we start to label them as being stubborn, or, you know, lots of horrible labels that are not true. The dog's probably just going, it's too hard. You know, I've got all these other distractions going on. Maybe I didn't even hear the cue. Maybe I'd rather not sit just now because I've got growing pains and my hips are uncomfortable. You know, we have to give them a little bit of leeway on this and not turn into the pushy owner. Always ask yourself, is there some other reason why the dog might not be able to listen to me? Especially if you've gone out of your way to find the very best reward, the very best reinforcer. So we're going to have a quick word about what makes a good reinforcer. Because it's not the same for every dog. You know, if you told me, instead of paying me money for a 40-hour week, you were going to take me on holiday. I'm going to get a week off and you're going to take me on holiday and it's all expenses paid. I'm your man. You know, that 40 hours, I'm your man. Definitely. I'm going to be there. But if you say to me, look, do me a 40-hour week and I'll make you a fresh salad, I'll be like, you're having a laugh, aren't you? Yeah? And no, mate, go ask someone else. That's, you know, gatto, chocolate gatto, cherry chocolate gatto, maybe get a really good couple of hours work out of me, but, you know. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and share my screen. Woohoo! And see whether or not I can make this happen. Find the right bit. Okay. Oops, on here. Okay. So this is Lily Chin. Lily Chin is really good at doing dog graphics. If you want to go find some really cute dog graphics. So she's done this little pay scale thing. Can you all see that? I know it's probably a bit small on your little screens, but you can zoom it in a little bit more for the ones of you that are squinting. So each dog is going to have a different pay scale. If you think about it, for you, you have a different pay scale. Obviously, for humans, money's the top one because then we can swap it for all sorts of other reinforcers. But if I were to put my own personal food scale, then it would be something like a salad at the bottom, a chocolate cake in the middle, and something fancy and Italian or French at the top, you know, a proper dinner. But here she's kind of tried to break it down for that particular dog, what's on their scale. And I really like this one here. I don't know. I can't, yeah, I can zoom it. So she's labeled the carrot as this, which I think is hilarious. Can you see that? Anyway, so that's that bit. And here somebody's also tried to done another graphic to give the same idea, that rewards are not all the same value, you know. So here they've explained that at home, where there's very few distractions, there's very few new things going on, then some of these will work fine, you know, dry kibble, dry treats. But when you start getting into higher and higher difficulty situations where there's more and more distractions, then the value of your reward must go up. Otherwise, your dog's not going to. Why should they? When they're already highly distracted, you'd be the same. You know, you don't want to be doing too much, and it is hard work ignoring distractions. It's something that they need to learn. It's not an easy job. So you need to be giving them high value food sources. Okay. So we'll stop that. Any questions about that bit? Anybody already started to work out a pay scale for their dogs, for their puppies? Let's put you on gallery. Okay, so how do you work out a pay scale? Well, basically you test it. There's some really, really cute videos online of dogs having their pay scale tested, and they basically pop them onto, there's a beautiful shepherd and now her little shepherdy puppy friend sit at a table, and the owner pops the food down and videos the dog's response and then gives it a score out of 10, you know, and the dog will, you can see from their face that's a nom nom nom, and then there's others that you'll kind of play with and fiddle with, and it's kind of okay, and then she'll give it a low score. So finding out what your dog's treat gradient is will help you to know, well, these are home treats. You know, my dogs are crazy about boring biscuits at home, but bring boring biscuits out with you into a training session where there's new dogs and there's new people and there's new equipment, and the behavior that I'm asking them is brand new to them as well. It's too much, it's too hard. So then they need something to help them focus, to help them to really want to be with me and to interact with me. And then I need something much higher value. Okay. All right, so that's that bit. Any questions at all about today? Because we're nearly at the end. Any wiggles, any waves? Yes, go, go, go. Go, Gadget, go.
Can I ask a question that's not actually related to this? Just going back to walking your dogs, I know some people are now taking them out. Bert isn't very keen on putting his harness on. Is there an easier way? I've tried giving him treats, fuss, holding him between my legs, getting him to sit, but you know, it's like one leg in, one leg out. It's like, what do you advise?
Depends on the style of harness. So my favorite style of harness, I don't know whether or not you saw last week. Let me just put it up here again. Oops. So let's just get rid of that one. My favorite type of harness has, it's not that one either. It comes into 4 parts. So it's got 4 clips. It's the perfect fit harness. And I don't know if you can see there, but there's 2 of these on each side. So part of the problem for most dogs is putting their head through something. So if that's your puppy's problem, if that's what makes them feel uncomfortable, then with this harness, you don't have to have them put their head through it. You can put it on the top and then reach around and clip this one in. The next thing that will commonly cause puppies to feel uncomfortable is the sound of the clip. Yeah, and what you can do with that is you can actually push your finger and thumb into those little round gaps, so that as you push your slider into the clip, it makes no noise at all. You can just silence that noise. The next thing is general handling. I mean, if your puppy's not comfortable with being touched in general or being maneuvered around, then putting a harness on is not going to be a comfortable experience for them. So making sure that they're happy with all of that. Taking it really slowly and associating it with something that they really like. So one thing I really do like to do with puppies is, while you're messing about with the harness, getting them used to all of the sensations, not just whop it on and go, but slowly, slowly, slowly. Give them a licky mat. Give them something that keeps their attention and their head down for a little while you're doing all of your fiddling about. Yeah? And if the puppy says stop, then do stop. I know that we quite often are in a rush, but the more that you force it, the more that you're giving your pup a bad experience in association with that object. So we want them to see the harness and go, yes, it's the harness. I love this game. She gets the licky mat out and then she fiddles about with me a bit and it's all okay and it's fine. And then we go for a walk. Oh my heavens. And then at some point in the future, your puppy's going to be actually more excited about the walk, and the walk is going to be associated with the presence of the harness, so that you won't have to do all of that fiddling about. But, you know, I think if your puppy isn't comfortable putting the harness on, your options are just to walk on a collar. Problems with collars, obviously, puppies are pulling, there's the risk of injuries. And again, bad associations. If they see something that they're fearful of and they're pulling on their collar, I'd rather they pulled into a harness. But at the same time, if they're not really comfortable with the harness, it's everybody's different shakes for different puppies. Yeah, but my main problem with the equipment is, if they're not comfortable with the equipment, and they're already worried because they're puppies, everything's new out there, everything's scary out there. Do you know there are lions and tigers and bears waiting to eat you when you're a puppy? If we're then associating that with that uncomfortable collar on or harness on experience, then the whole thing's going to fall apart, you know, the whole thing from the puppy's point of view. So I'd much rather spend time and not go for that walk, even though I'm excited because I've got this tiny puppy who's now fully vaccinated and we can start going. I'd rather spend time getting them used to wearing the collar, wearing the lead, wearing the harness, following me, having treats for following me, and doing all of that in the garden, and then carry them, as I say, to the middle of somewhere where it's not too difficult, where they can just pootle around and sniff without loads of people and things coming and dropping on their heads. Yeah. All right. So really, that was a really quick flash through the start of obedience training. But I really want you to understand, although it is important to train your dog, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is how they feel in new situations, how they feel with new behaviors from us, from humans, from other dogs, how they feel about new noises. You know, let's make sure, I mean, they're weeks old, you know, they're not, they have no experience of the world. And what you're actually doing is you're growing neural connections, you're growing pathways. And we want to, as much as is humanly possible, prevent them from developing fear pathways of new experiences. We want them to start seeing something new and have the, oh my God, new experience is brilliant, let's give it a go pathway lights up in the brain. All right, so happy? Questions from anybody? Give me some feedback, happy stuff. Oh no, there's a wave! There's a wave! We thought we were going to get away with it, but no.
Oh, just a quick one about, is there any magic chews we can give when we called pups?
So, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I did make a note of that, and I did think I would look at that. There is some stuff on the Facebook group about chews and things. Now, the main reason that the manufacturers have these age limits on is because puppies do have a habit of trying to choke themselves to death when they're eating edible chews. You know, they will try and gag that last bit down. I'm happy for any edible chew, which is long enough for me to keep a grip on, to be shared with my puppy. All right, so I hold it. I want the pup to find out that sharing food with me is fantastic and that I'm really good at holding it in exactly the right position so they can get their back teeth on it, so that they want to come to me with chewies and with whatever you're using. And it also means then that when they do get to that last little knobbly bit that you can't hold on to very well, you can swap it out and give them something else instead. Never ever leaving puppies unsupervised with chews. You know, I'm always looking at how they maneuver it. Are they trying to maneuver it to the back of the mouth? Are they trying to swallow it? If they're that kind of a puppy, I'm not going to let them have it on their own. But if they've already proven that they are the kind of puppy who does work at it and doesn't try and chunk down that last bit, then I can start to open up and start to trust a bit more. But it is, everyone's an individual. So yeah, I watch them like a hawk when they first have them. I share them with them and I hold them. But I don't really look at the puppy age limit bits. And the reason it's there is for their point of view. You know, you don't want to be sued by somebody who says, well, you never said it wasn't safe for a puppy. Does that make sense? The other thing you want to be looking out for, obviously, with pups is salt levels and introducing new protein types. Every time you change something that you give to your pup, then you're giving the gut a new job. And quite often the bacteria that are in the gut aren't set up for that particular protein or for that particular food type. So always start with small single changes, so that when you've got diarrhea the next day, you can go, oh, that was the whatever it was, that was the beef that I gave yesterday. So you can start to look to your dog and say, are you sensitive to that, or is it just that your gut's not ready for it yet, that your gut bacteria isn't primed for that particular food source yet? And, you know, with chewing, don't discard vegetables. You know, raw veg, fantastic for most puppies, are going to really give it a go. So things like broccoli, carrots are really good, and especially when they're teething, freeze them. Frozen veg chewies. You know, a lot of dogs will really spend a lot of time working on those as a puppy, and if that goes down in a lump, it's not the end of the world. You know, it's, as long as it gets down the throat, it will go in the tummy and it will digest. So the things that I definitely would avoid with puppies are anything that highly processed. So I definitely don't want, oh, I always lose because I don't even use them. You know, those flat, white, nasty, dried things. I put a thing on Facebook of treats that I would avoid. They're made into knots and all sorts of different shapes. I want it to be a single animal protein. I want it to be from an animal, and I don't want it to be processed. So things like dried pig's ears that haven't been coloured a funny colour, or things like pizzle sticks, which are just dried willies. Just say that out loud. You know, they're one single animal protein, and they've not had a lot of processing and glues added and preservatives added. They're just dried animal. Yeah. The other one would be chews which are designed not to be swallowable and are big enough that your puppy couldn't possibly swallow them. So things like Nylabones, I don't mind Nylabones at all. And I like to, when I get a brand new one, either give it to an older dog so that they can put teeth marks in it and make it easier to put food onto. So smear things like cream cheese or ham paste or chicken paste or something that gets into those knobbles and scratches. Or if you haven't got an older dog, a saw, you know, saw some grooves into it so that it's roughened up and stuff will stick into it. And quite often that's a really good way to introduce them to the idea of chewing. So you're looking for something that will fit comfortably into the back teeth so that they can get a grip on it, and they can, so something that's too big isn't really going to help, but something at the same time that's not easy to swallow by accident, that not going to rock it to the back of the mouth. So it's a bit like, anybody here had a toddler, human toddlers? You spend, you know, when they're going through that first food stage, you spend ages, don't you, holding on to food so they can taste it, but not letting it go because they might gag it down. And then you spend a lot of time putting your fingers in the back of their throats and dragging stuff out because they've tried to swallow it too big. And I have the same kind of attitude about puppies, you know, be there. Is that all right? You're going to be able to go out and buy some stuff now. Pasture Pets have tons, you know, down Grimsby Cleethorpes Road. They have tons of dried animals, different sorts of things. You know, you can go there and have a complete treat party. Somebody else mentioned separation issues, common in puppies. You know, they're not meant to be on their own at all. If you think about it, if they were wild dogs, which obviously they are not, but mum wouldn't be just toddling off for a couple of hours and leaving them on their own just now. She would be somewhere close by and she would be checking in with them. And in that situation, they wouldn't be alone because they would be with their other pack members, so the other puppies. It's normal for the puppy to want to feel secure and to want to be able to see somebody. But we do start needing to teach them to be separated. And the way that we do that is by making them a safe place, or, you know, a den, if you want to call it. And in that safe place is going to be the good stuff, so the chewies, the things to entertain them. And then we're going to, the first separations, we're going to be in the room, but we're not going to be interacting. So they're learning, the person gets on with whatever they're doing. They don't need my attention. They're not doing anything that I'm going to be involved in. And anyway, I'm doing this, so I don't need them. You know, I don't need them to be right next to me. you slowly introduce the idea that you're going to leave the room, but you're coming straight back in again, and you're still not going to interact with them. But we slowly grow the length of time, and we slowly grow the distance until we can then start leaving the house for a few seconds and coming straight back in, and not making a big deal out of it. The recent studies have shown that dogs who are very well bonded to their owners are less likely to have separation issues. Okay, so that goes against some previous knowledge that's still going around suggesting that you have to, you know, do things to make your dog feel that they don't need you quite so much. It's actually the other way around, that you can be very safely bonded and learn to be on your own. Okay, all right, so I think I'm done because I've got to kind of get ready for the next one as well. So unless anyone's got any emergency things with regards to the 2 puppy issue, I can probably give you 5 minutes if you want to hang back when everybody else signs themselves off. So in order to leave, what you do is press on your own picture on the screen, and you should find a leave button, and we'll say goodbye to everybody before they leave, and we'll see if everybody manages to leave them. Nearly there. Well done. Right. Hi.
Hi.
So horrible. I mean, I always cringe when I hear that people are getting 2.
Sorry.
No, it's such hard work living with one, and you think when you're thinking about doing it, you think it's going to be easier with 2 because they're going to entertain each other, and to a degree that's correct.
Yeah.
But the problems are that they will bond very strongly with each other, and they will become reliant on each other in the way that one will always tend to become the braver one, and therefore the one who's nervous will tend to become more nervous, and you get this big change in personality types. And as you've said quite rightly, when they're playing, there isn't an adult there who would normally, the mummy dog would normally come in and split them up. She would normally say, "You 2 calm down."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but it is doable. So the first thing I would say is they need to spend significant lengths of time not in each other's company.
Okay.
So in order to do that, what you need to do is divide your home so that they can see each other, so that they can, but they have their own bedrooms. And you think about it like kids, you know, if you have them share a bedroom, they fight, don't they? They get upset, and there's different people in my space, and it's because they can't relax and rest as individuals, and they can't just do one thing without the other one coming in and interrupting. So alone time, but what I would do is set up 2 cages right next to each other.
So they have that, they already have 2 crates next to each other, yeah?
Yeah, and chew time goes in there. When they're playing, you supervise, so we don't have free play, free access to each other. I would have one learning to be on their own in the crate and getting rewarded for being on their own in the crate while you get the other one out. You play and you bond and you train with that puppy as an individual.
Yeah.
You take them individually for their walks so that they can learn about the world and learn to be brave on their own. It does unfortunately mean that you have to have somebody else being with the puppy who's at home, so they're not getting exposed to separation in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable. I'm worried. Do you interrupt the playing? Yes-ish is the answer. One of my favorite behavior people who I listen to, podcasts that I listen to, she's got a really good way of putting it. She says, well, it depends. And that's her response pretty much to everything with regards to dog training. It depends. It depends on, is it play that is normal play, but is irritating to you because it's loud, and quite commonly that is the case, that it is normal play and actually emotionally they're fine? Or is it play that is tipping over into aggression, where one puppy isn't maybe listening to the cues from the other pup, they need to slow everything down and calm everything down? So you would need to really look closely. Are they both in it? Are they both enjoying it? Is it just a case of it's getting on your nerves, or it's irritating you? If it is that actually one puppy has said, can we stop now, and the other puppy isn't listening, then I always interrupt, always. I'm gonna go through the middle, and I'm gonna, boop, you two separate. We're not, you can't carry on.
Yeah, it just sounds like, and it is escalating, and it seems like it's becoming more aggressive. I do monitor it. I do let them have some play, and sometimes I think, oh, that's fine, they are just playing it. But then the growls come, they're snarling, and then like Baxter had Woody by his neck last night, and Woody was yelping, but he still wouldn't let go. So obviously I interrupted. They're not listening to each other's cues. I don't think.
Absolutely. It sounds like an arousal issue. So arousal, it's a word that unfortunately is used as a label for other things. So let's pretend we're not talking about anything like that. So arousal means that the fight-flight system in the body has been switched on. And that means that you've got high levels of adrenaline, and that the thinking part of the brain becomes switched off. Yeah, so it becomes an emergency situation. And play is quite arousing. Play does release the same hormones in a slightly different way, but it still has a similar effect on the brain, that the brain gets reactive. The brain starts to look for stress points, and it starts to get that fight-flight system in function. All right. Yeah. So what I would do is I would monitor and manage arousal levels. Okay. So the way I tend to do that with puppies is I will allow them to play, but I will have a set time, a little clock inside my head that goes off to say, right, stop, rest time, do something else. And I tend to keep that around about 10 to 15 seconds, 20 seconds at the most. Play, 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 play. Oh, come here, have a sweetie. Yeah, it doesn't need to be an interruption, but we introduce an interruption cue. So for my lot, it's the word right, which I can't say too loudly because they mean something's happening. So right is my interrupter cue, which means if I say that, it means stop whatever you're doing, let's do something else instead. And that can be right, I'm going to get off the sofa and we're going to go out for the toilet. It doesn't mean something horrible is going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I have been trying to do that, but I didn't know if I was rewarding bad behaviour. So they do tend to come to me. They do tend to come to if I call their names now, which is really good, because they're expecting a treat, and they will come and they'll sit in front of me and they'll be really good. But I didn't know if that was rewarding that bad behaviour, them fighting.
Think about what just before you give the treat.
What do you mean?
What happens just before you give the treat? Literally, the second before you give the treat, what is the puppy doing?
They're looking at me.
Yeah. So that's what you're rewarding.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Does that make sense? Now you can, yes, absolutely, you can develop a behaviour chain. You can develop, if it becomes predictable that every time you start to get aroused and start to get bitey, that you do the interruption and they get reinforced. But the point to having that time limit is that you're going to be interrupting before they get to that stage.
Yeah.
So they're playing, 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 not doing anything horrible. You go, right, and they go, oh, treats, yum, yum, yum.
So you think we should have scheduled time in the day for them to play together?
It does make it easier from the puppy's point of view if environmental cues, in other words, the time of day, what's going on in that day, what the owner does in that time, become part of the picture, yes, it does make it easier for them to understand now it's playtime. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Whereas if if it's unpredictable, and again, it's one of those, it depends.
Yeah. Okay. Oh Lord.
Have a word. I know, I do feel for you. But it's always going to be harder to navigate through a 2 puppy situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, living with puppies is blooming hard work.
I know. And then they haven't had the second set of jabs. I don't know if Claire told you, so we can't even walk them at the moment because Black Sheep said their jab was compatible, but when my husband got there, it wasn't compatible. So it was too late. So now we have to wait, like we're behind 2 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. So I've got to sign you off because I've got the next group starting to want to join us.
Thank you.
Yeah, do keep asking and do keep, we're here if you need us. Don't panic and have a meltdown all on your own. Come and do it with us.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate your help. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Sammy. I'm just going to sign this one off for 5 minutes. I need the loo and stuff and get you to join back on when I restart. I don't know if you can even hear me now because your picture's gone blank. But okay, I'm just going to sign this one off.